Hi, guys. You're welcome to Nirruption's first news podcast. We know that you people don't have the time to be reading news every day, so we have brought this right to your doorstep. I'm Emediong Udoh, and I will be your host for today. We have some headlines on the Nigerian news today. First off, it has been 8 years since the Chibok girls were abducted on April 14th, 2014. We use 1 minute of silence to remember all those still in captivity. Okay, moving on. Business Day, MTN gets final approval to operate MoMo Payment Service Bank. So the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has granted MTN the final approval to operate as MoMo Payment Service Bank Limited. This is 5 months after it got an approval in principle towards the licensing of payment services. According to a statement, MTN did not specify when operations would start, but that the date of commencement will be communicated to the CBN in accordance with its requirements. According to the Apex Bank guidelines, the key objective of issuing PSB licenses is to boost financial inclusion, especially in rural areas, and facilitate transactions. So there's a problem whereby in rural areas, that is places that are not town, places we would call the village, basically, there is a need for them to have more financial transactions. And most times the issue is that these people do not really have so much experience with owning bank accounts. They don't have many much experience with bank transactions. So the PSB offers the payments. The PSB refers to the payment service bank, and it is a type of bank that operates on a smaller scale by harnessing technology services via mobile and agency banking to mobilize deposits and facilitate transfers from unbanked customers in rural areas and any location where they exist in Nigeria. PSBs are expected to function in rural regions and in areas where Nigerians do not have bank accounts. They are also expected to have at least 50% physical access points in rural areas. According to Nairametrics, what MTN can do with the PSB license, MTN can collect deposits and offer savings accounts to its consumers. Individuals and small enterprises are among their clients. They can also facilitate cross-border transfers through all of Nigeria's available methods. It can provide debit and prepaid cards as well as run electronic purses. It can also invest a portion of the deposits they receive in FBN and CBN securities. Now, what MTN cannot do is that MTN cannot issue loans, advances, and guarantees. So it runs like a bank, except that they cannot issue loans. And they are also not allowed to trade in foreign exchange except for remittances, and they're not allowed to issue insurance products. What MTN would do with the customers' deposits? The PSBs can utilize clients' deposits to their advantage. Because consumers may not always come to take their money, the deposits can be placed in short-term assets, allowing the PSBs to generate a rapid profit. The CBN, on the other hand, states that at any moment in time, not less than 75% of the deposits they acquire must be retained in treasury bills and other short-term federal government debt instruments, implying that they would put the majority of the funds in secure assets. The CBN also requires that all funds in excess of PSB's operational float, that is the amount required to operate on a daily basis, so the excess of this operational float should be placed with deposit money institutions, that's commercial banks. Now, this implies that while many people might see them as a threat to actual banks, they are to be reported by the banks. They did not come to carry your customers, as their deposits can be placed with any bank of their choice. Our next headline, Rise.ng raises $150,000. Rise.ng, a Nigerian startup, has secured a $150,000 pre-seed round as it prepares to launch its business operations in the country. Founded in 2019 by Olawumi Oyedeji, the startup was inspired by Try My Job, a reality TV show where influential people swap jobs with their fans for a day, and SMEs are given a platform to showcase their products and services. The startup claims it takes advantage of this to provide the best selection of artisans and vendors for anyone's day-to-day needs. Next, Business Day Hekima on the price of oil and Nigerian refineries. Following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, global crude oil prices have spiked to over $100 per barrel as sanctions from world-leading economies, as well as several voluntary decisions, caused leading world crude traders to curtail crude and fuel purchases from Russia's state-controlled oil companies. Data obtained by HEC indicates that as of April 14, 2022, Bonny Light, that's the name by which Nigeria's crude goes, closed at $107 per barrel. Similarly, the OPEC basket of crude oil gained 3.75% over the preceding day's trading price. Now, for an economy that depends on oil and gas for about 65% of its revenue earnings and 90% of its export earnings, this development should portend good times ahead. But this is not so for Nigeria because as the crude oil prices are rising, the lamentations of the economy managers and the people are also increasing. According to the monthly oil market report, the OPEC, Nigeria's average crude oil production for March stayed at 1.38 million barrels per day. That's 2,151% less than the 1.72 mbpd assigned by the OPEC production agreement. For us, the first step to resolving the oil debacle is to have a working refinery in the country. The government should start by selling the existing refineries to private operators in a transparent process, Business Day says. On our next news headline, the cost of BUA cement increases. Investors are happy, but builders are weeping. This was the phrase of lamentation used by a Nigerian whose hopes of owning a house of his own appears to have all but been dashed. I mean, everybody wants to build. Do you know that if you remove rent from your daily expenses, I mean, you would have saved a lot of money? So this followed the announcement by BUA Cement PLC on March 29th that the cement maker grew its revenue and profits by double digits in the 2021 financial year compared to 2020. In the disclosure made to the Nigerian Exchange, I'm going to give you guys some numbers, just try to follow. The company reported that its after-tax profit grew by 24.5% over the previous year to 90.08 billion naira. Per share earnings rose by 24.5% to 2.66 versus 2020, while the dividend to be given to shareholders climbed 25.6% from Sorry, so I got confused by the numbers. Per share earnings rose by 24.5% to 2.66 versus 2020, while the dividend to be given to shareholders climbed 25.6% from 2.07 naira for each share held to 2.60 naira. This should be a source of delight for Nigerians that invested in the shares of the company, but it is also a cause of misery to Nigerians who have hoped, Nigerians like me, who have hoped to have a house they can call their own. Business Day analysis showed that just like other cement manufacturers, BUA SEM capitalized on the near inelastic demand for cement in Nigeria to grow their revenue through a considerable increase in prices. It currently costs about 9.90 US dollars to buy 50 kilograms of cement. Wow. It costs 7.20 US dollars in Ghana, 5.87 US dollars in Kenya, and 5.40 US dollars in South Africa. Next, the US helicopters sold to Nigeria. I hope you guys are still following. In a bid to address the insecurity crisis in Nigeria, which I'm sure we have all been hearing about, it's in different parts of the country, the United States State Department has declared the sale of 12 AH-1Z Cobra attack helicopters worth nearly $1 billion to Nigeria. The clearing of the sale followed the lifting by US lawmakers of objections over human rights concerns. The Defense Security Cooperation Agency announced last week Thursday the sale of the helicopter and related defense systems to the Nigerian military. The sale includes the Bell-made Cobras, 28 General Electric-made T700 401C engines, 2,000 advanced precision kill weapon systems used to convert unguided missiles into precision-guided missiles, and night vision, targeting, and navigation systems. The AH-1 is a dedicated attack helicopter featuring a tandem cockpit, stub wings for weapons, and a chain-mounted gun turret. Several countries, including the US, Israel, Japan, Jordan, Turkey, Pakistan, and the Philippines, have deployed the Bell AH-1 Cobra for attack missions.
It's 4 o'clock.
Nigeria's power firms. Okay, the total revenue collected by electricity distribution companies in Nigeria from their customers increased the most last year since the power sector was privatized, buoyed by the hikes in tariffs. The discos and the generation companies, discos is the electricity distribution companies. So the discos and the generation companies, GenCos, unbundled from the defunct Power Holding Company of Nigeria, were privatized in 2013 and handed over to the core investors on November 1st, also in 2013, while the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, has remained under government ownership. Data obtained by Business Day from the Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, ANED, the umbrella body for the discos, showed that the revenue collected by them surged by 46.6% to 757 billion naira in 2021. The total power generation in the country, okay, more numbers with the decimals, stood at 3,089.3 megawatts as at 6 a.m. on Monday, the 18th of April, down from 4,311.1 megawatts at the start of the month. According to data from the Nigerian Electricity System Operator, the national grid, which is managed by the TCN, suffered another collapse on April 8, the first this month, and the third in 24 days, worsening power supply in many parts of the country, of which I am actually it's such a terrible thing to live without power supply, because everything is online these days. Next on our news headlines, APC presidential forms prices. This one is particularly very interesting. According to Tribune Online, according to Tribune Online, there was a spontaneous public display of anger and frustration within and outside the All Progressives Congress, APC, on Wednesday as the party fixed the cost of its nomination and expression of interest forms for the presidential ticket at 100 million naira per aspirant. I've always particularly found it interesting that you also have to pay for expressing your interest in a position. Many Nigerians took to the social media accusing the party of encouraging corruption and for shutting out competent and credible Nigerians from the political space in favor of a clique of those they termed power monger. There was a lot of uproar, many Nigerians feel that they hyped the price so that people that are actually competent and credible cannot meet up with the prices for those forms. Engaged by what was described as Enraged, I beg your pardon, by what was described as an outrageous fee, one of the aspirants for the APC ticket, Adamu Garba, called for a collective action to rescue the country from the from the stranglehold of the money bags. Wow, money bags. Tweeting at Adamu Garba, Garba lamented the strangulation of the nation by money bags and the buying of political offices. A trend, he said, was a great disservice to the present and future generation of the nation, and I would greatly agree. So, female aspirants and persons with disabilities, PWD aspirants, are to purchase expression of interest form, while nomination forms are free for each position. Youths, that's 35 years and below, are to purchase expression of interest form with a 40% discount of the nomination form fees for each position. So I have a chart here, which I'm just going to explain. There is a bar that shows the expression of interest form and the nomination form. So for the presidential post, we have 30 million naira. Okay, so back to the form, to the chart. I'm sorry, I have a lot of problems with numbers today. For the presidential candidates, 30 million naira for the expression of interest form and 70 million naira for the nomination form, making a total of 100 million naira. For the governorship, we have 10 million naira for the expression of interest form and 40 million naira for the nomination form, making a total of 50 million naira. For the Senate, 3 million naira expression of interest, and 17 million naira for the nomination form, making a total of 20 million naira. For the House of Reps, 1 million naira for the expression of interest form and 9 million naira for the nomination form. So we have a total of 10 million. And in the State House of Assembly, we have a total of 2 million naira because there is 500,000 naira for the expression of interest form and 1.5 million naira for the nomination form. Our next headline, Hajj will be expensive this year. Daily Post reports that the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, has made it clear to intending Muslim pilgrims that this year's Hajj fare will be expensive. So if you are hoping to go on pilgrimage to Mecca, this will be particularly important for you. The chairman and chief executive officer of the commission, Alhaji Zikrullah Hassan, made this known in Abuja on Thursday, providing a lot of obvious reasons. The chairman, during a meeting with the chief executives of state Muslim pilgrims welfare boards, agencies, and commissions, at Hajj House on Thursday, also said that intending pilgrims above the age of 65 years will not be allowed into Saudi Arabia. Also speaking on the cost of Hajj this year, Hassan said, firstly, we are going to run the 2022 Hajj on 410 naira to $1, as against the normal 306 naira to $1 in Hajj of 2019. If you look at the difference, it's about a 34% jump in cost because Hajj is about 97% determined by the foreign exchange. Secondly, Saudi Arabia has increased its value-added tax from 5 to 15%. That again is a jump in cost. Thirdly, and equally very important, recently in a meeting with Saudi authorities, they told us the 2022 Hajj is going to be expensive because they have invested much in Muna and Arafat. Therefore, the cost of services will not be as it used to be. Also, there has been another Air Force jet crash. Very unfortunate. A jet belonging to the Nigerian Air Force has crashed in Kaduna State, The Guardian reports. It was gathered that some personnel on board the jet were feared dead. The latest incident in Kaduna makes it 5 air crashes involving Nigerian military planes in the last 1 year. I really think this needs looking into. On our next news headline, Buhari pardons former governors put in jail on corruption charges. The presidency has defended the pardon granted to 2 former state governors who were jailed for stealing public funds, Premium Times reports. In a statement on Wednesday night, President Muhammad Buhari's spokesperson, Garba Shehu, said Mr. Buhari pardoned the former governors on the ground of ill health after a review of their conditions. Now, I know that there will be a lot of opinions on this. He said the recommendation to the National Council of States for the pardon of the ex-governors and 157 others was a culmination of a rigorous process regulated and guided by the law, which was not in any way designed to achieve political purpose, quote and unquote. Premium Times reported how President Buhari, on the advice of the Council of States, pardoned ex-governor Joshua Dariye of Plateau and ex-governor Jolly Iyami of Taraba. Both men were serving jail terms after they were convicted of stealing billions of naira of public funds while they were governors. Their convictions were upheld by the Supreme Court. The pardon granted the 2 men have been condemned by the pardon granted the 2 men has been condemned by many Nigerians, including anti-corruption officials, as a negation of the fight against corruption. I agree, because pardoning these men for taking all this money on the grounds of ill health, I want to ask, was it like mental health? Because I'm wondering, if someone is sick, should they steal money? I have a lot of questions. But the officials of Nigeria's 2 main anti-corruption agencies, EFCC and ICPC, told Premium Times that they not only felt demotivated by the pardons, they believe it has effectively ended the anti-corruption war of the present government, because if they are trying to get offenders and they are being pardoned, it really negates their purpose. And yes, it is very much demotivating. Section 175 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, enjoins the president to exercise his constitutional powers to grant any person concerned with or convicted of any offense created by an act of the National Assembly a pardon, either free or subject to lawful conditions, to grant respite, either for an indefinite or a specified period of the execution of any punishment imposed on the person for such an offense. He can also substitute a less severe form of punishment imposed on that person for such an offense, or remit the whole or any part of the punishment imposed on the person for such an offense. So it would seem that he actually remitted the whole of the punishment for these two governors. The federal government constituted the PACPM on August the 28th of 2018 with the mandate of assisting the president in the discharge of his constitutional responsibility of granting pardon to convicts or ex-convicts in deserving cases. Finally, for the Nigerian news, more than 160 passengers are still missing from the train attack in Nigeria. I'm sure everybody heard about this unfortunate incident. More than 160 passengers who were on a train that was attacked in the northern Nigerian city of Kaduna last month remain missing or unaccounted for, as details of possible collaboration between Boko Haram jihadists and local bandits have emerged. 10 people were killed, two in the weeks since the attack on 28th of March, when gunmen bombed the rail tracks, derailing the train before gunning down passengers and train staff and abducting scores of people. The Nigerian Railway Corporation that runs the train service said earlier this month that 168 people remain unaccounted for, including over 140 passengers it had not been able to reach through registered contacts. At least one person has paid a ransom and been released. A relative of two of the victims said families were not aware of any other freed captives by the assailants. On Thursday, a spokesperson said that while there had not been an update on the number of passengers missing in 2 weeks, to the anguish of relatives, new information would be announced soon, and we sincerely hope for the best as we await. All right, guys, these are all the headlines we have for today. We collate our news from different newspapers in Nigeria. We collate from different sources. And just to note that there are many other pressing matters happening in Nigeria, but we picked the ones that are most pressing, especially for us as youth, most relevant for us, especially as youth here at Nirruption. We are the youth for the youth. This is going to be a weekly thing. This news podcast is going to be a weekly thing. So you can stay tuned for our coming. Yeah, so you can stay tuned for more updates from our podcast. I'm Emediong, and I will see you guys next week.